Hey everybody, we're Pole DFS. I'm Ricky.
I'm Keaton.
And we're going to talk about Kansas.
For the
what
second
is the name
time.
of the race?
It is the Buschy McBusch Race 400. I love it, but I'm not going to say it again.
Yeah, so just fully let everyone know, we may or may not have recorded a version of this. And when I say recorded, I mean didn't record. And here we are.
And it
so
is now almost midnight, and we are starting fresh because
But the Buschy McBusch Race, it's great. It's better than the Blue Emu Maximum Pain Relief 500.
Yeah, definitely. It passes that race for my favorite name. So it's got that going for it.
So anybody else that would like to put up a better name, we're in for it. But
so we might do this one a little quicker, but there are some things that we want to highlight on this show that we will get into really quickly here right now.
No, first we talk about beers.
Yep.
I'm drinking a Natty Light.
I've got 3C West Coast IPA from Triple C right up the road from my house, less than a mile from my house.
Yep.
One of my favorites.
Yeah. Did you say a half mile?
Yeah, half mile, somewhere right in there.
And did you say yes or no to your child's first birthday party being held at Triple C?
Absolutely. One of my favorite breweries in Charlotte. And
there
you can find me there on a nice Sunday or Saturday
So
afternoon.
if you do not think that kids should be at breweries, please comment below.
Yeah.
But nonetheless.
Also, let's real quick point out I am wearing Ricky Parker Racing shirt, number 25. Ricky's
we're
not
racing
here
tomorrow
today because he's driving.
Hence why I have Natty Light, because I'm remote. And we're getting ready to race tomorrow at Tri-County in Hudson, which is about an hour from Charlotte. And we'll be running a limited late model. Hope we got a new motor in this week, so we will hopefully be running well. But as usual, thank you to the viewers. And as we jump to last week's recap,
this is the important part.
Talk about me winning.
Yeah.
Talk about me winning. DraftKings, trash. I went on about a 20-minute rant in our first attempt at a video, and I will try to keep it to myself this time. But nonetheless, SuperDrafts. If you aren't on SuperDraft yet, join below. My promo code is going to be there, SuperDraft.
Yep.
But the thing about it is it is not salary based, so it's multiplier based. So you have a team of 5. And each driver has a different multiplier to where the amount of points that they garner are multiplied by that number. And so the people that they perceive as the best have a 1 times multiplier all the way up to 2. And you have to pick 5 of those people, one of which is a champion, which you get 1.5 times. So you can get up to 3.
Which was like Kaz Gralla last week for you.
Kaz Gralla, which was an easy pick. As we talked about if you follow us on Twitter, we've been tweeting the same Jesus out of the guy. Because A, he is a great Twitter follow, so you should definitely follow him. B, he also retweeted us. We were pumped. C, we hope that he watches our show at some point.
I was just going to say, D, I am going to tweet at him when we're done with this show and ask him to watch the show so that we can say, fan of the show, Kaz Gralla next week.
Fan of the show, Kaz Gralla. No, but we,
friend of the show, maybe?
Yeah, friend of the show. But no, we're super excited. College racing has been so good in the Xfinity Series. They're running 10 races this year. Split between Kaz and AJ Allmendinger, who also a huge fan of. And I'm super excited to see them run this year. They've already announced they're going to have at least 1 full-time team next year in Cup. So it's super exciting to see. And just Kaz Gralla, can you make an entrance better than Kaz has? He's had 3 starts so far, one of which road course, super speedway, 2 road courses in super speedway. But he's had top 10s at one of the road courses and one of the super speedways. And it's very impressive, and just can't say enough. But as you look at SuperDrafts, it's a little bit different in that the multiplier just is such a end-all be-all that, I mean, especially at like a place like Talladega, you see nobody had less than a 1.5 multiplier on my team last week, and I won the biggest one. Is it $15 to enter?
Yep.
I think it's 15. Yep. And so it's very, very cool. If you have any questions about SuperDrafts, the people I like this week in SuperDrafts, Austin Cindric is 2 times, starting 38th.
So do you like Cindric as a captain?
Yeah. Yeah. I honestly, I think I've talked a little bit in past shows about how I'm apprehensive about drivers who are making their first starts and, rookies and that type of thing in Cup Series. But, like, we're starting to see, when Cindric started his first race at a mile and a half, he was at Atlanta, he finished 22nd. And first of all, if he only finishes 22nd, he's still making tons of points on SuperDrafts because if you have him as your champion 3 times and started 38th, like, he's still making tons of points. But, like, if he's able to push in the top 20 to the top 15, which he's in a Penske car, he definitely can.
Yep.
And he has tons of ability. He's a great driver. Like, I have him as champion a lot. I have a few where I have some other people as champion. I think there's a few other people that you can definitely have that are still in the 2 times range.
So who else do you like?
I like Chase Briscoe, who's starting a little bit higher this week, but still only 2 times. Alfredo to fill out my rosters. He's starting 19th, somewhere up there. A little bit higher, but still at 2 times. It's really hard to avoid him. But like, also I like a few other people. I like Kurt Busch. I think he's at 1.4.
Okay.
But with his position differential, and we'll talk a little bit later about his average finish at Kansas is like 14th. And he could definitely improve upon that the way he's been running. And so at 1.4, he's definitely appealing. And then there's a few people who maybe don't even have that multiplier, but just have the position differential opportunities, like Denny Hamlin, like Logano, like Larson, who we'll talk about.
We're going to talk about all those guys a ton, yeah.
May be good to hop on. I also like Almirola. But if you would like to hear me talk more specifically about SuperDrafts, please comment below. I will do a show about it, whether it be just pure strategy on SuperDrafts, because it is a very different strategical approach to it versus like the salary-based DraftKings or FanDuel, and there definitely is that aspect to it that I'm still learning, but like I've gotten a pretty decent handle on. And so if you're trying to learn and you want to learn, or you want to just hear what I say and just ignore it the next day, that's totally fine as well. But if you want that, please let us know below, comment, like, all that good stuff, and let us know. But as we move to this week...
But congrats to Ricky first on his huge week last week.
It was my first win.
First W.
First win.
Yeah,
I was super pumped. I'm still down.
Ricky has officially won a NASCAR contest before I have won a NASCAR. Number 1, first place.
Yeah. Keaton has won more money than me because he won on DK, but still. And that's one thing I do like about SuperDrafts before we hop to this one, which we're already there. You don't have to move back slides, but they're smaller fields, so it is easier to win. You don't have like the 10,000 people in a tournament, so it is feasible to actually win something without just like getting luck with a certain aspect of luck to it. Yep. And also because it's not as well known as like DraftKings, not all the tournaments fill up. And so there actually ends up being a lot of overlays, the term I've been told.
Yep.
Where you end up actually having substantially less people. And so I know for golf this week, for the big one, that at least 25% were in the money, as opposed to like a normal DraftKings where like, what is it, 18 to 20%?
Yeah, and so what's nice about that is you can actually get either rake free or even better where there's overlay. So rake free is where there's enough entries to meet the guarantee, but the site's not making any money. So those are nice because all the money that's received is being paid out. So you can think of that as like a typical contest would be an 1,100 person contest and a $5 buy-in, but they only pay out $5,000. The site keeping 500 is rake. Where if it only gets 1,000 people, that's a rake-free contest. But if it gets 900, now the site's only collected $4,500, but it has to pay out $5,000, and so there's $500 of overlay money the site's providing that players aren't. And so it instantly makes your $5 entry, if you were equal skill with everyone and there was overlay of 10%, your $5 entry would be worth $5.50 in theoretical expected value. So that's where the value comes from there.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not everyone. A lot of them do fill, but like for golf this week, I think there was like $175 of like 2 SuperDrafts. Like it was a $5,000 max guarantee, and like they only made $175. Or so it was basically a rake free that you just described. More or less, and some of the lesser ones were not even that where there was overlay. Nice. So as we move to the normal DK scoring system, you got lap base, you got finish base. So lap base, you got lap sled, you got fastest lap. We'll talk about those in tandem because they're very similar. They're different in like how they actually are, but when you're thinking about them and who you pick to be those people that get a lot of lap-based points, they end up being very similar because the people who lead laps get fastest laps, and the people who you think are going to be the fastest laps, you also hope that they lead laps. So as we move to laps led, we're definitely seeing some versus 267 laps.
We double-checked it twice.
Yeah, 400 miles, mile and a half. 267 laps, which is at 80, 80, 107 are the 3 stages.
Yep.
And if you look at the average laps led, there's no one that's hopping out, but they're all pretty consistent. So Harvick, I actually inputted right at the bottom, usual weekly Harvick talk, because Stewart-Haas has just not been great this year. We've talked about it every week. Maybe I personally am of the opinion that it's going to turn around because I think that team's too good, and I think Kevin Harvick's too good to consistently be meh. But it's definitely something to keep an eye on because when you look at the statistics and when you look at everything, Harvick does pop out because he has done really, really well here, and he's done really, really well at mile and a half. So he's done really, really well all the time because Kevin Harvick, he's really good.
And he's starting 4th.
Yeah, he's starting 4th, so like he has the potential to be like the early gunner and that type of thing. And he's cheap this week at 9,100. But it's definitely something to keep an eye on. But the rest of the guys, the rest of the 4 here have position differential on top of the gunner potential. So we'll talk a little bit more. I know Keaton is really, really big on trying to build lineups with like an early gunner where somebody who's starting towards the front, top 5 or so, and then building the 2 other gunners and a 3 gunner like lineup being some of those guys that also have position differential. What do you think about that, Keaton?
Yeah, that's exactly right. The lineups I built so far have been that. I actually pretty much exclusively have built Byron running out front. I think he's just too much cheaper than some of our other options out front. But I think you could also do it with Keselowski being your early runner. Or really, like I said, any of the guys in the top 4-ish. I think Harvick starting 4th. Or where's Truex start? Maybe down to Truex at 8th.
Truex is starting pretty far back, isn't he?
Is he 8th?
He's starting teens, isn't he?
Oh, is he that far back? Okay. So then probably not him. So I think that right now the way I've been thinking about this race is the idea that someone gets out and wins the first stage.
Maybe Blaney starting 7th.
And like someone like Byron right now is what I've been building as. Just dominate stage 1. Is he okay? Starts dominate stage 1, and then by the time we get to the later parts of stage 2 or in that competition caution, you have some of the guys that from the back that have lots of that place differential, but also are in cars that we see run out fastest and lead laps, have made their way to the front by then. So that's what I've been building as. Like you said, mostly a 3-gunner build for me, but I've been doing it in separate chunks in my mind where I have my early dominators and then my late dominators / like position wins.
Yeah, and that makes total sense. And I think the thing is that when we were on the last slide, one thing I wanted to know, and when you look at fastest lap, because they are very similar, is that unlike some of the other mile-and-a-half races where we get, one person leading 120 laps and one other person leading 95 laps, and then like a hodgepodge of like other people leading like 10 laps, we definitely get, in the past couple races, we have seen a little bit more of an even smattering of like 3 people leading at least 50 laps, that type of thing, where, there's a little bit more potential to like, have the person that you pick a gunner actually be a gunner, but B, gives you the opportunity where if you have a 3-gunner set and you get those 3 gunners right and lead more than 50 laps, you have a really good opportunity to have a really high point output.
Yep.
And so, getting those people right, and especially with the point differential, which we'll talk about, it's an interesting week because I read a lot and I saw some videos and some tweets and stuff this week about how people think it's very chalky this week. I disagree. I think there are certain aspects that are chalky. We'll talk a little bit about it later.
Yeah, I thought that was the next slide.
Yeah, it's down a little bit further, but somebody like Cindric at 6,700, I think is going to be very chalky. But I think at the top, I think it's hard. I think it's really hard to pick, and I think there's going to be some chalky picks. Like I don't know what Hamlin's ownership is going to be. I assume it's going to be high, and I still want him. Like, that's where I'm at on it. Because, like, the way he's ran, he's starting 20th. He's not that expensive. Like, there's going to be chalky people, but there's a lot of options. Because, like we said, Truex starting 15. Chase Elliott starting 17. Hamlin starting 20th. Bowman starting 25th. Logano starting 28th or 29th, I can't ever remember, and Larson starting 32nd. Like, you can't have all of those guys, and any of those 5 or 6 guys that I just said could be the gunners. Like, pick 3, right?
Well, I was just gonna say, would you build a roster with 3 of those guys? My problem
100%.
is really
100%.
So how do you? What about the early part of the race?
We hope that the early part is short.
I mean, basically, like the earliest starting guy you said there was like mid-teens.
Was 15th, yeah.
So, I mean, he just needs to pick through the field and get to the front pretty early?
Yeah, but like, think about it though. If like, say Truex, who's starting the front of that pack in 15th, if he makes it through, he gets 14 points just to making it to first. And maybe he doesn't finish first, but if he finishes top 10, he gets at least 10 points, and that's what you get 0.25 points per lap led. That's 40 laps. So I mean,
you're still gonna need him to lead some laps if he.
Yeah, definitely. But like, it gives you 40 laps to like it gives you a 40 lap like cushion.
Yeah.
Before he leads any laps.
No, that's what makes guys like Larson super interesting.
Yeah, because again, like the same logic, right? Like say Larson finishes top 5, that's 27 points just for 5th, and that's not even counting him leading laps. If he leads laps, like, you have to have him at that point.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing that's going to be interesting is that, like, I mean, if mile and a half has shown us anything, somebody between Truex, Chase Elliott, Hamlin, Logano, and Larson, those 5, and throw Bowman in too the same way, is going to lead 50 to 70 laps and probably finish top 5. And if you don't have them, you're probably not going to win.
Yeah, that's fair. And then, we just hit on the position differential there, so I'm going to move on to the next slide and talk about Kansas real quick. And we're going to get into all these as we get into the recent form.
Yeah. Kansas. It is 15 miles from downtown Kansas City. but still has the address of Kansas City, unlike some other places where they're like, we're in Atlanta or we're in Talladega. It's actually in Kansas
Charlotte.
City. Yeah, we're in Charlotte. Well, yeah, Concord too. No, it's perfect. Yeah, but 976 miles from Charlotte to Kansas City. That's one thing we're going to be noting more because I'm not in Charlotte, but normally we're in Charlotte. B, a lot of the race teams are in Charlotte, and so it's definitely interesting to see how far away these places are. Some of these places are really, really far away, and it's definitely interesting to think about the aspect of the hauler drivers and moving all the equipment that you need from point A to point B. The perfect example is Kyle Larson last week. His motor blew because they had a sheet of metal blocking the radiator and blocking anything to get into the radiator during travel, and they forgot to take it out. And so it's definitely an interesting aspect. It's just these teams are such big operations, and sometimes they go really, really far away from home. And it's a little bit better nowadays that it's a one day show. And so, back in the day when, they used to practice on Fridays or Thursdays even, you'd come in, a tractor trailer would leave on Sunday for a race, maybe get in like Sunday night, Monday morning, and then basically leave like Tuesday morning to go to the next race. And so it's definitely, life on the road is something and a half.
I did learn these drivers fly in between. They don't ride in the hauler. I learned that in our show.
Yeah, I was telling Keaton there was one time where, and I'm pretty sure Alex Bowman did the same thing, but Junior rode, I think it was cross country. I think it was to one of the California races. He drove on the hauler and tweeted all about it. But yeah, normally it's just the hauler drivers that take it from one place to the other, and the drivers just fly in the day of. But anyways, Kansas as a whole, I don't have anything to say about it. It's a mile and a half. It's a mile and a half.
Another mile and a half track. We've seen.
I don't have any strong feelings about it. But my strategy this week, 3-gunner. I think you need 3 gunners because of the position differential, where they're just gonna be some high scores this week.
And by gunner this week, some of our traditional gunners have that built-in place differential, and so like even if they aren't going to be traditionally gunning in that they're not going to lead 100 laps, like Ricky said, you can sort of think in that place differential as built-in laps if they make it up to the front and finish as we expect them to in the top 5 or whatever. I think that's exactly right. We'll see as we go through everything. There's definitely some people that jump out specifically, but yeah, trying to get 3 gunners. There's also some people, and I think this is where the chalk comes in a lot, where there's some obvious filler guys, where there's some obvious guys that you can get to make your 3-gunner lineups work. And sorry, I got a horse right there. More Natty Light. And there's definitely some opportunities as we look through at some places where you can where there's some guys that you can just easily put in. And I definitely want Keaton's opinion on this as we go, because the very bottom, there's a few guys that are just obvious that you probably should have, and they're going to be really chalky. And I don't have a good approach to it, but I still want 3 gunners. We'll go from there. Do you have anything else to add on that, Keaton? I know you had talked about, again, the trying to have 1 early gunner and then 2 of maybe the position differential gunner. Yeah, really the only thing I had to add there is I actually learned this week from another show. I can't remember which one, or else I'd give them credit, but where the term chalk came from. Do you know?
No.
So
they wrote it when they did odds. They wrote them on a chalkboard with chalk, and if they were the winner, they gave them a check mark.
Okay, so it's close. You were right about the writing in chalkboard. So it comes from horse racing back in the day.
There you go.
They would write the odds up on chalk, but when a bet was so popular, like a horse became so popular, they would, so how a book works generally is the book doesn't care who wins. They want to take enough bets on all sides, so they take their spread, right? So when a lot of people are betting on a horse, they have to keep lowering its odds to encourage people to bet on other fucking horses. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, other horses. And so they would be constantly erasing that favorite horse that everyone's betting on and rewriting it in the chalk. And so as they are furiously dropping that horse's odds, that is where the term came from. So as the chalk
That's
is
very
what
cool.
everyone's betting on. So
there you go. Yeah, and there's a few guys as we walk through that I think are pretty good choices, but I think there's a lot of choices this week. Like that, I think that's the difference between some weeks where, because last week was a restrictor plate race where like it's a little bit more wonky. We're getting a lot of opportunity here, and maybe at the end of the day, like some of the chalky choices don't actually end up being that chalky because there's so many options.
Yeah. I think we talked about in a previous episode when we have like you said, wonky finishes or the races that lead to non-traditional finishes, we get a non-traditional grid, and we definitely saw that this week.
Yeah, and I think it's jumping out at us this week, and not only but it's jumping out at us, but also like the pricing's soft.
Yeah, you can get a good lineup this week.
I'm pretty confused by it. Larson at 11.3, starting 32nd. Wasn't he more expensive than that? Like starting like 10th.
And I feel like we've had our highest end driver be more expensive than that most weeks.
And it makes sense. Like we've had weeks where like I guess like maybe Kyle Busch when he was starting in the 20s.
I was thinking about Kyle Busch truck week where he was like 14-7 or whatever.
Well, yeah, but like also like you knew he was gonna win. Did he win? I don't actually remember.
No, I think he finished like 7th that week, but still.
Oh, only 7th. But yeah, no, like literally like 11.3 is cheap, and like Logano starting 29th, 11.1. Yeah, all the prices. But as we look at position differential opportunity, I think that's the next slide.
Yep.
And but like those top 3, are just really interesting to me. Because the thing about Larson,
dominators, right? Those are our traditional. All three of those guys we traditionally put in our dominator pool when they start higher in the grid because they can get out and like Hamlin
even when they're 11,000. Yeah. And the thing about Larson that is interesting to me, on top of the fact that A, he started 32nd, but B, he hasn't won at Kansas before, but he's led a lot of laps, and and that was before he went to Hendrick, where we talked about like the upgrading cars and like the upgrading equipment and that type of thing. But like he led a lot of laps here before when he was with Ganassi, and there's no reason to think that he's not going to also run well here now. And he's run well here outside of obviously he had the problems at dirt where he got caught up in a bunch of wrecks. And then last week where he blew his motor and blah, 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 blah. But, like, their traditional mile and a half that we've seen this year, he's ran really, really well. And there's no reason to think that he's not going to run really, really well. And honestly, the same thing with Logano and Hamlin.
I think they all just have to stay clean picking their way through the field, right? I think that's the biggest thing for any of those guys.
But I don't see a problem with it.
How much do you think Larson has a chip on his shoulder from last week? You think he's feeling like he needs to go out and do something this week?
I mean, I think he's feeling like his motor should probably make it past the first 5 laps is what he's hoping for. But no, I mean, I don't necessarily believe in the chip in the shoulder stuff, but I do definitely think that he's going to come out at a track that he's done really well at in the past and just continue to do well because that's the type of driver he is.
Yeah.
But as we move down, Austin Cindric we talked about before, he's just too cheap.
Yeah.
He's too cheap. We've talked about him. His first couple races that he was in Cup, and he was starting like 38th, 39th area. He's like 8,500, and I said over and over again, don't trust people who are just on their first starts in Cup. Don't trust him. Don't trust him. Don't trust him. He's too expensive. Blah, 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 is what I said. If you actually ran back the tape, I'd actually be saying blah, 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 blah. But at $6,700, you can't not play him.
Yeah, they
like
dropped
literally
the price
like
way too cheap. DraftKings watched our show and they dropped the price.
Yeah, like they were watching Pitapole and they were like, Ricky makes a lot of good points about how expensive Austin Cindric is, and then they overcompensated way too much. Like, so it's very similar to Chase Briscoe we talked about earlier in the year when he was like 7,000, 7,100, 7,200, which he's not that far off now. But like when he was starting like 34, 35, 36, like that area. And I said, hey, he's a rookie. I'm not sure how high he's going to finish, but I know he's going to finish higher than 35th. And at $7,000, he's well worth that risk, and he's probably going to pay for himself. At $6,700, Austin Cindric, unless he wrecks or blows up, like I said, like I have it here.
Cars.
He's in a Penske car.
That's what I mean. He'll beat all the junk cars. So he instantly vaults to like 28th or whatever.
Yeah, and like 28th probably pays for $600-$700. I mean, probably not to win, but like
he's not gonna clear your lineup.
Man, cash. But like literally, so at Atlanta, the other mile and a half that he's ran at, he finished 22nd. You think he probably improves on that? He's starting to get used to the Cup cars.
If he finishes in the top 20, you'd almost have to have him in your roster at his.
You almost have to have him. And he's a guy who 100% could go out and finish top 15, if not better.
Yeah.
Like, car-wise is there. Talent-wise is there. Experience, maybe not. But, like, $6,700 is too cheap. Stop pricing these people too cheap.
So next week, tell them right now where they should price Cindric, assuming he's probably going to move up. Say he starts 30th position next week because he has a decent running this week.
7,500.
Okay, there you go, DraftKings. 7,500 next week when Cindric starts 30th.
He should be 7,800 this week, at least.
Yep, because he would be very similar to like the week we saw Tyler Reddick starting back far, and he was like 8,500. But I think honestly we saw Reddick, and he's obviously had better results. But you know, Reddick was like 8,500 when he was the Uber chalk starting like 28th.
He was starting 30 something, but yeah. Yeah, it's just, but like also like Tyler Reddick has a year plus of Cup experience, and B had like track experience at Homestead because he's just so good at Homestead. But like, but still, like 6,700, too cheap. Stop it.
And I know you feel that way about Kurt Busch too.
Yeah, Kurt Busch, big fan. So So Alex Bowman and Kurt Busch are two people that I'm very interested in. If you watch the show at all, you know I'm a huge Alex Bowman homer, but Kurt Busch starting 3 positions behind him and $900 cheaper is very intriguing to me. Average finish is 14th. Bowman's is 9th. I think Bowman, and I think they're finally starting to price him as such, which is why I'm still baffled by William Byron being priced lower, but neither here nor there. I think they're finally pricing Bowman where he should be in the, that gunner range. Maybe the lower end until he shows up every week and like in the top 5. But like, I mean, he's a top 10 car every week, top 5 car some weeks. Obviously, he won
a winner, but
and like great driver. But like, he's shown that he should probably be $10,000. The weird thing to me though is that like, this is the week where they decide to put him over 10K, and this is the week where they also like depreciate Larson and Logano to like only 11,000. I don't understand. Nonetheless, but Kurt Busch starting 28 at 9,300. I have a lot of them on SuperDrafts again, which I talked about before. I think he's like 1.4. He's way too easy of a play. He like makes the most sense on SuperDrafts. But beyond that, there's also a few other position differential opportunities that I didn't even put on here. Truex starting 15th.
Yep.
Chase Elliott starting 17th. I mean, there's just a ton of options this week, and that's why, again, I say this is not as chalky of a week as people are saying it is.
It might be at the lower end.
Yeah, no, I agree with that, but and it may be, and we'll talk about that in a minute. One person I did want to note before we jump off of this, the bottom of the list, is Eric Jones, somebody who has had kind of mixed results this year. He's had some weeks where I know early on we've talked about time and time again. His average finish and stuff like that may not be quite as indicative of where he's going to finish now because he was in better equipment last year and previously than he is now at Richard Petty Motorsports. But that being said, starting 27th, they've started to price him up more to where like he should be probably at 7,800. But still, I mean, I think he has top 15 potential. And he's shown that he can finish that 10th to 15th area. And at $7,800 and starting 27th, I think he's definitely a good option.
Yep.
Favorites. Yeah. Again, look at the position differential. Like, yeah.
So much opportunity. I mean, these are the Vegas odds along the right side here, and you see that even Vegas is saying the guys. I mean, Kyle Larson starting 32nd at 7-1 is
third favorite.
Yeah.
I don't even know. I don't even know what to say here. I think it really says it's all, right?
I think it's amazing 15th, that Larson is
first, 17th.
Larson is a higher favorite than Keselowski starting first. Is absolutely incredible.
Yeah, I know. I agree. I think it's very, very telling and interesting, and I don't know how much stock you want to put in it. Vegas obviously knows what's going on with stuff, or they would be losing money.
Yeah,
but they're pretty sharp. But notwithstanding, like, there's a lot of opportunities here, and
because you said you thought Almirola can get it done, right?
And if you were like, what bet would you do? 66-1, Eric Almirola, good bet. And honestly, a great play starting 18th at 8,400. Yeah. He's somebody who I like a lot. I also like him in SuperDrafts. I can't remember what his multiplayer is, but I'm playing him a lot in SuperDrafts. Almirola, 66-1, too low. Also, Di Benedetto is also pretty low at 66-1, starting 5th. But Almirola is somebody that I really, really like. 66-1 just feels really, really low. Yep. I think he's definitely somebody that can get down in a lot, like get into the top 5. And the thing about it is if you can get in the top 5, why can't you win? Like
you're one restart away.
Yeah, exactly. And so Bowman at 18-1 is also pretty interesting to me because I would rather bet Bowman than like Chase starting at 9-1, starting 17. But
yeah, I mean, I don't think Chase wins 2 times as often as Bowman wins.
I also agree. Which is, but you never know. So, that's something interesting that you look at when we talk about the odds every week because, if you are betting specifically on odds, it's definitely a different approach than just the, DFS aspect. But
it also gives you an insight into
it gives you a really, really good insight on the DFS side.
Yeah.
And what, like we said, Vegas is really good at picking winners.
Yeah.
And it may not be the end all be all because they aren't always right. And also if you're looking at just chance of winning, it's a lot different than whether or not you're going to finish top 5, top 10. There are a lot of sites
point differential
that will show you
DFS.
Yeah, there's a lot of and there are a lot of sites that you can get odds for top 3, top 5, top 10, and I think there's definitely warrant to looking at those when you're building out your lineups.
Yep.
Because a percentage of top 10s, like if you can get odds for like what your top 10 is, like for those drivers that start like 20th or worse, like that's a really like deciding factor. Like if Eric Jones has good odds of finishing top 10, top 15, like maybe he's a more attractive play than other times. But Yeah, it's definitely something to keep an eye on, and I like watching them week to week and how they jump and move and that type of thing, on how people are doing. But as we look at last year's result, well, it's not last year's results. This is 2018 for Kansas. These are your top 5 drivers based on their starting position, average finish.
Okay.
And they are the people we just talked about.
Yeah, that point differential really makes it big this week.
Yeah. And as you look, I mean, you look at the right side, look at average finish. Larson 7. Eric Jones, who we just talked about, maybe a little bit deceiving because he's not as good equipment. But still, I mean, average finish 8. Let's say he finished 15th, he would still be, around the top 5. Not gonna do
I
that.
like that note on Austin Cindric down there.
So Austin Cindric actually is very interesting to me because when we look at value, so one thing I did this week when I put the numbers into my spreadsheet. So normally when you haven't had any starts at a track, you just automatically go to the bottom because you don't have any stats. So I this week I added in their finishes at 1.5 miles to kind of give a proxy. And when I did that, again, Austin Cindric only 1 start at 1.5 miles, which, maybe not a full sample size, but he finished 22nd. And if he finished 22nd, he would be top 10 overall value and 3rd on the value side.
Yeah.
So again, and that's just finishing 22nd, which I think he can finish better than. And he's really hard not to play this week.
Well, I was going to say that the more you're selling it, the more I can see his ownership getting like 40%.
It's going to be so high. And, but the thing is that it's just probably going to happen where he finishes top 20.
Yeah. And then you're going to have him.
Yeah. I will obviously have lineups without him because I don't want to have 100% of anybody. But, yeah, I still want to be over the field there.
Yeah.
But
so here's looking at top value.
As we look at value, it's the same people, though. I mean, you look at Jones, Larson, Bowman, Chase, Kurt Busch.
Yep. And then Cindric, I love, again, the note. 3rd best value if you finish this top 27.
Yep. He was 3rd. 3rd best value. So, I mean, definitely somebody who is capable of, being high value, even if he finishes 22nd.
Yeah.
If he finishes better than 22nd, like if he finishes 15th, I can't be sure off the top of my head, but I'm pretty sure he would have been the number 1 value. Easy.
Yeah. And I would guess you almost have to have him at that point.
Yeah. And I think that's very capable of happening. I think we're going to see, and that's something to be interesting to watch, is that I don't know how many races. I assume he's going to run 5 races this year so that he can still run for Rookie of the Year next year. But we'll see. This is his 3rd race or 4th race. And this is his 4th race. And so maybe he's running more. But anyways, we're going to see him get better and better. The same way that we've seen Briscoe get better and better. Yep. And, at some point he's going to be pressed too high to play him all the time. But now's a great time to play him if you're ever going to play him. And again, he's going to be chalky, but I just still have a hard time not playing him. Yeah. But that being said, if you look at everyone else, one name that really jumped out to me when you look at also in the top 10 was Cole Custer. So starting, I want to say 9th, maybe 11th. Let me look at this spreadsheet real quick. He's starting pretty, not super far back.
Excuse me.
Huh?
I said, excuse me for the yawn. It's late.
Yeah, he is starting 10th.
Okay.
But his average finish at Kansas, he only has 2 races because he's the 2nd year. But his average finish is 11th. And, puts him pretty decent. Puts him 9th in value. And that includes Cindric in 9th. So, and it's 7,100. Definitely an appealing option. Definitely has some downside in that he is starting 9th. So you don't have that, you don't have the position differential capability. And we've definitely talked about him in past weeks where he's been starting 20th. where he kind of feels like a no-brainer to play. Maybe not so much this week, but he is somebody that is popping out. The rest of the people here are just pretty not surprising people, but definitely people you want in your pool.
Yep.
And gunner prediction. Is based on laps led at Martinsville. That's not right. Based on laps led at whatever track we're at this week.
The Kansas Speedway. Kansas.
The stats are right. The slide is wrong. But yeah, again, what I was talking about before, Kyle Larson led laps here. Hasn't won, but he has led laps. And that's why he's number one on, coming out of my spreadsheet. Between Larson, Hamlin, Harvick, Logano, Chase. And so the thing about it is when you're looking at this is my prediction for most points scored. So you are getting the position differential built in here. So you get the position differential of Larson, of Hamlin, of Logano, of Chase Elliott. But you're also getting the fact that Kevin Harvick's led a lot of laps here and has a high average finish. And so obviously we talked ad nauseum about whether or not Stuart Haas is as good this year as they have been and whether or not they're going to improve, but he's still there. He's still showing up on all of this, and he's $9,100. So I don't know. I don't have any strong feelings there, but my other picks are Bowman, Keselowski, Truex. They were all three of my top 10, and I just like them personally.
So with these gunners, and I
can't
remember if we touched on it on this show or on the one that failed to record, a little bitter. But when we're talking about some of these guys in our gunner pool, there is a fair number of the gunners that are starting 15 and back. So would you build lineups that had 3 of those 15 back, or would you try to build in 1 or 2 of the guys starting towards the front, or maybe 1 at least, of the guys starting towards the front of the pack to be our early dominator? How do you feel, I guess, about my early dominator theory?
Yeah, I mean, it's not bad. And honestly, I think the thing about it is that, I mean, I really like Keselowski. I know you obviously like Byron, which you talked about a little bit.
I just think he's $900 cheaper. It's the same as
$900 cheaper, starting second versus first of Keselowski, and definitely has as much of a chance to jump out there to a lead. But I mean, I agree with it. I don't know if I'm going to build every lineup with one early gunner, 2 late gunners, or 2 other gunners, or whatever. I don't know if I'll build my lineups like that, but because I think you could build a lineup with Truex, Hamlin, Bowman. You probably couldn't get Larson in that lineup, but those 3, something like that. Where, Truex is starting 15th, but if he gets up to the front, which he probably will, he can, and he leads laps. He does if he can get to first, if he finishes first or second. Well, we talked about it earlier. Maybe not on this show, but maybe pre-show, maybe the other show. I don't know what show. But Truex starting 15th. If he finishes 5th. That's 40 laps worth of points.
Yep.
And so if he finishes 5th, he scores as many points as Keselowski if he leads 40 laps.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously. But, Keselowski has that little bit of point bump for finishing first if he did win. But, I don't think this week it's going to matter as much as in past weeks.
Okay.
And I think there definitely is a benefit to it because, if you can hit it, right? If you hit, you were talking about Byron, sorry. If you hit Byron and Byron leads 75 laps.
He wins stage 1,
second,
right? And leads the whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah, and if he finishes top 5, then, 100% you need to have him.
Yeah.
And, you probably can have a winning roster with him, Truex or Hamlin, if one of them gets in the front, and Logano or Larson or Bowman, whatever of those lower down guys end up getting towards the front and leading laps and finishes in the top 5. Like, if you have that roster where you have 3 of those, and then you fill it out with like a Cedric Alfredo, somebody. Yeah, like you're going to be high up there. I think there's a lot of ways to build it this week.
Yeah.
That make the fact that there is some chalky plays less relevant. I don't think it doesn't even matter that I'm going to probably play Austin Cindric. Yeah, that may be a chalky play and he may be super high owned, but the rest of my team's not going to be as high owned. Yeah. That's where I'm at. That's my opinion on it. And obviously I'm not a ownership guru, but I don't see any of these guys being just ridiculously owned because there's so many options. And maybe you do go
guys like we talked about. I think the cheaper guys like Cindric especially, I think is going to be probably the highest owned driver on the slate.
Oh, 100%. He should be.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. But yeah, I don't know. We'll talk about it as we go through the player pool because I think that's what comes next. And so I call this the gunner pool, and it's literally just the 9,500 and more pool. But when you look at this, I mean, position differential, this is what Keaton has been calling his late gunner pool or secondary gunners or whatever you want to call them, where they're not going to lead the first 50, 60, 70 laps, but they're going to lead the rest of the laps.
And
what some
easily
of them
win. Your winner probably comes from this group more often than not.
Yeah, I think that's right. And any of them, I put the could throw a dart. I don't have strong feelings for any of them. Is that Bowman number right? Is he 9,700? I thought he was 10-2.
I think that's right. Let's see.
Was I just making stuff up?
He's out there just making stuff
Bowman's
up.
10-2.
He is 10-2.
Something's wrong there. Larson 11-3, Logano 11-1, Hamlin 10-8, Chase 10-4, Bowman 10-2, Truex is 10. So that's kind of wonky with the prices for some reason. The starting positions are right, and so all of these guys are 10 grand or above, but they're all really good choices. But as you move to the 9 to 10K guys, I think is where you're gonna get something. And these guys are the prices are actually correct. Do you have anything to say here on this?
Yeah, I mean, so this is the other kind of build the other guys I've been including is Harvick and Keselowski in my build. And then we talked about Kurt Busch. He's awesome place differential, obviously a great driver and a great car. So I will have Keselowski and Harvick in what I'm calling my early gunner pool. Basically, I think I'm probably gonna be the first. I might go down to Blaney, honestly. Getting Blaney at 7th, I might loop him into my early gunner pool.
I haven't built all my rosters yet, so it's definitely interesting. Blaney didn't jump off the page at me necessarily when I was doing everything, but when I'm thinking about it now, Blaney at 9,500, compared to the other Penske cars, feels cheap. Starting Blaney being $200 cheaper than Keselowski, starting 7th versus 1st, that feels off to me.
Yeah.
If you were gun to head, who finishes higher, Keselowski or Blaney? I'd probably go Keselowski, but if you were who finishes 6 positions better?
Yeah.
Or does Keselowski finish 6 positions better? I would say no. Blaney is definitely an interesting pick because he doesn't quite fit the bill of an early gunner because he's not starting top 3 or 4, but he is starting close enough that if his car does end up being really really good, which you've seen him be really really good at mile and a half.
I mean, he can be out there in 20 laps, right?
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Yeah, I like Blaney a lot in this range. I've talked ad nauseum about Kurt Busch, and also we've talked about Kevin Harvick a lot. I'm interested. I put a note down here on what Keselowski's ownership's going to be. Because again,
the
he's
pole
starting
usually
first,
gets low ownership in DFS.
but which also seems like an opportunity.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. Keselowski, and I feel very similar about Blaney at 9,500 and Harvick at 9,100. There's not many
Ricky
weeks
likes
where you
these
can
drivers.
There's not many weeks where you can get this type of driver at that cheap of a price, especially Harvick. And again, I know we've talked time and time again, and I could talk time and time again about whether or not Harvick is, whether or not the Stewart-Haas cars are good enough to win, to do those things. But if you told me you could get Kevin Harvick for $9,100, I'm like, yeah, I would like to do that. I don't know.
All right, we got to move on. We're getting close to an hour, and it is my bedtime.
Yeah, 100%. One person that I wanted to note that I do not have in this before we get to Kyle Busch is I did not include William Byron in mine, but you love William Byron, so talk a little bit about why you like William Byron. And as we've talked about it throughout the show, I have softened my stance on it because he's ran so well, but starting second scares me.
So I think he's
tell
the
me why
same
you
thing
like
we
him.
talked about with the drop down to Kurt Busch versus the 25th starting Bowman at 10-2 down to Kurt Busch for $900 cheaper. It's the same play, I think, for the Brad Keselowski dropping down to Bowman at 8,600 or 8,800.
88.
Math's hard. But yeah, it's the same. I think it's a similar idea. He starts second, and I mean, we've seen Byron's car do really well at the start, off the start, and so if he can be the one that gets the lead position over Keselowski to start the race, I think we could see him be the driver that can fight off and hold 60 or 80 laps up front early.
I definitely agree. I actually really, really agree. As we went through everything, I think he's definitely somebody that I would A, include in my driver pool, but B, very heavily consider to be like that early gunner that you talked about in that type of roster construction. A couple people that I want to highlight at the top of this is Kyle Busch at 8,600. Very similar to Harvick in that he hasn't ran great this year. He's ran okay.
Yeah.
I think the Gibbs cars are better than the Stewart-Haas cars, but I think that Kyle hasn't ran as well. But at $8,600, you're not going to get Kyle Busch, and he's starting 9th.
Yeah.
You're not going to get Kyle Busch for $8,600 very often.
Yeah.
And again, this is why I'm very confused with pricing this week. Everything just feels soft. I just don't really get it. And I also really like Almirola starting 18th, as I said, by the fact that I would bet him at 6-1 to win. So. But at 8,400, starting 18th.
Stenhouse is someone I found myself trying to get, but his price is just a little awkward. Starting 23rd,
it's also a little high versus past weeks. So we've seen him be mispriced a lot this year. We've seen him starting around 20th and being priced at $6,700.
Yeah.
Or less. And it's just been wrong. Very similar to Austin Drinking this week. But I think this week he's starting to get closer to where he probably should be. I think he's probably a high 7s the way that he's performed. He is a top 20 easy car.
Yeah.
But the thing is that I'd rather have Almirola than him. I would rather have Eric Jones than him. That's where I come down.
Haas cars, right? With Almirola, I'm not sure I'm going to be big on the Team Haas.
Almirola finished he finished 7th at Richmond.
Yeah. He's probably been the best driver over there.
You say he's probably the best driver over there?
Well, maybe not the best driver. He's been the best driver this season.
Oh, this season, other than the fact that he's finished way in the back every race, but it's fine. I think Eric Almirola is a great driver, and I definitely am worried about that. But yeah, starting 18th, I would much rather have him starting 18th versus Stenhouse starting 23rd. I'm intrigued by somebody like Bell. We talk about him about every week, I think. He's not priced as high as maybe he should be in a Gibbs car, but then he's also had some wonky performances.
And he's
where
starting
like
eighth, so it's hard to trust that you need a good performance.
Yeah, but I mean, the thing about it is like there's gonna be weeks where he finishes top 5, like 5 to 8, right? And if he's priced at $8,000, like you probably need him. But moving down, like you're looking at like. Again, I really like Eric Jones this week. I mean, his average finish is 8th here. I don't think he's going to finish 8th, but I think he could easily finish top 15, maybe even 10th. And at $7,800, he's a little bit more expensive than some weeks, but I still really like him. Custer and Reddick are two guys starting 10th and 11th who have a lot of risk to them. I'm not playing a ton of them, but are just very interesting because especially like Reddick, right? We've talked about Reddick every week. He's a really, really good race car driver. And they keep pricing him kind of a little bit lower than he feels like he should be.
I like the next 4 more than the rest of them.
I agree. Yeah. I love Cindric. But also Suarez. I mean, Suarez has been a top 15 car every race this year. He's had problems some weeks and whatnot. But and even last week he was running really well at Talladega, which isn't necessarily indicative, but he was running well until the very end. But starting 21st in 6,300, I know you mentioned Buescher that you were interested in.
I was torn when I was building a couple times where I would get down to my last guy in, and I'd have to choose between Buescher and Briscoe down there. And so I was having a hard time choosing. I know actually when we got on the first time to do a show, you and I kind of talked about that really quick, and you said if you have $200 extra, I'd put Suarez in.
I did say that.
But yeah, I was torn between those two guys a lot, and I think I ultimately ended up choosing Buescher in a fair number of those. But I will do some lineups with Briscoe in it. But
the thing about Buescher is that I think he actually he's been a top 15 car at mile and a half this year. But B, the way that he had that early race at Homestead where he like led like the entire first stage.
Yeah.
And like maybe that was an aberration, but like if I could get somebody that like has led like an entire stage this year at a mile and a half at $6,100, like yeah, he is very attractive there, and he definitely doesn't have the position differential upside. But like the hard part is that I think he finishes higher than Briscoe, but does he finish 3 positions higher?
Yeah,
I don't know. Like I think that's the hard part, and I'd rather have Suarez, like I said.
Yep.
But yeah, no, all 3 of those people are very good options. And as we move down, the 3 in the sub
$4,500.
I don't get it. It's too cheap. So
if Pasta doesn't crash,
yeah, if he doesn't crash, he's finishing at least 25th, and he pays for himself at $4,500. He is the cheapest driver this week.
That's crazy.
I don't get it.
He's cheaper than Haley. He's cheaper than
Yeah, I don't get it. I'm like he is $1,000 cheaper than Corey LaJoie, who's only starting 4 positions back.
Yeah.
I don't get it. I don't get it at all. It's very confusing to me.
And so this is what I mean about the low-end chalk. Like, these are the guys that are going to be, like Ricky said down here, or maybe in every lineup, right? Obviously, they're not going to be in every lineup, but, like, those are the type of guys, like, Cindric and Alfredo, I mean, even LaJoie to an extent, are going to be heavily owned.
Yeah. No, I agree. They just make a lot of lineups really easy.
Yeah. But so the thing about DFS is at a certain point, once a guy is 80% owned, if he's like, talk about the far extremes, at that point he should just be 100% owned, and it's called just a free space, right? And every single player plays him, and it just doesn't matter what happens.
Whatever works. Yeah. And I think I mean, I don't think Alfredo will be that much, but like I think he's gonna be close. Like he's just so easy to find.
Yeah, that price is crazy.
So like, and especially because like we talked about at the top, the pricing is a little bit softer at the top, and if you put in a $4,500 person, it makes it really easy to get Larson and Bowman and
name your star.
Hamlin and blah, 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 as you move down. And like it makes it really, really easy. I don't know what all there is to say about Alfredo because he just feels even starting 22nd. Like honestly, like I think he's a 22nd place car, if not better.
Yeah,
probably,
as long as he stays
probably
clean.
A 20th to 25th car. I think like Alfredo has shown that. And he's very much in the same boat as, Chase Briscoe we've talked about, not as in good of his car, but is still learning, is still getting all that like advancement that you see. And yeah, 4,500 is wrong. It's just bad.
Yep.
And especially when you look at LaJoie, who is still a good value, $1,000 more. Yep. I think LaJoie's really, really good value. I think he's a guy that could finish, again, 20th, 25th, if not better. And at 5,500, it makes tons of sense. Priest was the one that I was very interested by because I think he's a little cheap. He has a lot of risk, though.
Yeah, I was going to say, 12th. I don't like him starting 12th.
So, he's interesting because he is a teammate car to Stenhouse, who we were just talking about, who we feel is a little expensive, starting 24th or whatever, he's starting 23rd. But you're not getting you are starting 12th, so you have that fear. But Priest has been pretty good this year. I think he could easily be around 15.
I was gonna say you need him to be 15 or so.
Yeah, and if he finishes 15th at 5,600, like he pays for himself, and you hope you get your gunners right. Like I think he's definitely a guy that maybe you pivot to off of these bottom two to
now
still make your roster.
A viable strategy because if the ownership is all going to follow Anthony or LaJoie, or Alfredo LaJoie or Cendric, I do think it does make sense to pivot over to some of the guys that'll have a little bit less ownership, especially in some of the big field tournaments. I'm not sure how much Priest I will have. I will definitely have some, but he was intriguing to me because 5,600 is really cheap for him, and obviously I know he's starting 12th, and that's a little scary to me and everyone. But at 5,600, it's almost worth the risk. And in tournaments, you have to take a risk to win them. So yeah, I think that totally makes sense as a tournament play.
Yeah, and so that's the interesting thing though, is that like the bottom end is there's not that many choices. There are choices, but like there's not that many options, right? Like you look at those sub 6K, and these are the three guys I came up with, and the rest of them I wouldn't put near my rosters. And so that's where I think it may be chalky this week.
But you could also build lineups without going down to the 6K guys at all. Like I mean, depending on what you do up top, you could go with a balanced build and avoid the chalk 6K range altogether. I
think there's definitely an opportunity to do that this week. But as my final verdict, I say get the gunners right. Get your three guys.
Who are your gunners right now? Who are your 1, 2, 3?
Oh God.
Gun to head. Who you got?
Can I fit them in my lineup? I say Keselowski, Hamlin, Larson. I don't know if I have enough money for that, but
I do like that.
Those would be my three.
I do like that. I said, I'm big on Byron this week. The lineups I've built so far have been pretty heavily on Byron, so I hope he's our early Dom, and then I'm just gonna mix and match the guys from the back, the Larsons,
I will definitely be intermingling those guys a lot. I really like Bowman and Kurt Busch as like almost like a quasi gunner.
Okay.
So like the third guy, and especially Kurt Busch at a lot cheaper at 9,300 is somebody who is very intriguing to me, and I think like is going to find a lot of my lineups. But I don't know. We'll see what the answer is on Sunday. As usual, make sure to leave who you think is going to win, early dominate, late dominate, and also who the cheap guys are that you think are going to outperform if we missed any of them in our driver. Who should we add to our driver pool? Or take away, honestly.
Be sure to follow Ricky Parker Racing on Facebook, and good luck to Ricky tomorrow.
We will have updates tomorrow and everything. Make sure to like and subscribe YouTube channel. Follow us on Twitter, Pole DFS. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great night.
Later. Bye.